All right, welcome in everybody. Another Tuesday night edition of the Boiler Express podcast. Um, Frank, you kind of faked me out there. It was like a delay. We were going to go live, but hey, we're here. We're here now. We're here now. Thank you all for tuning in. And Dylan apparently is muted. Apparently,
No,
I
I
don't know
wouldn't
what's
say
going
anything.
on.
I was
Oh,
telling
okay,
you to
all right.
go, even though we'd already went. Go ahead. Go
All
ahead.
right. So
This isn't the
we want to
Today
thank our
Show.
sponsors before we get started here. It's okay. There's 0 live listeners so far, so like this will only show up in the post
It
production.
just now
So
told me we're live, by the way. Like it
Frank's
just
gonna
popped on
Frank's
my
gonna
screen.
edit this all out. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. So, but anyways, yeah, our sponsors, Martin Vintage. Thank you for sponsoring the Boiler Express boys. Go see them. Use code BXP at checkout for 10% off. Also follow them on all their socials because they post any new gear that they get up there, and they also post different deals that might be 20% off or free shipping or whatever. So go check them out. CBB Analytics, check them out as well for all your college basketball stats. If there's a stat there, Frank said once, if there's a stat that you want, it's there somewhere. You just got to find it. Like they've got everything you want there, and you can sign up for free and just see Purdue stats, or you can get a premier membership like they've hooked us up with, and you can see all the Big Ten, see all the nation, and see all the games and where teams stack up against Purdue. And use that research for your brackets we got coming up. So
The website's
be
even easy to navigate for idiots like me, so it's perfect for everyone.
that's saying a lot. So that's
Wow.
well
Okay.
done.
All
Okay.
right. All right. Didn't need you to double down, but all right. All right.
Oh, like you never do that. Okay. Anyways, Cincy Blitzboards as well. Thank you guys for being our longest standing sponsor. We've got a nice one behind me here, behind Dylan there.
Shout
Frank's
out to
not in the
them.
club yet, but that's cool.
I
They're good
ordered one
for.
for my brother for Christmas, and then I
There you
forgot
go.
about it. And then they texted me, and they're like, "Hey, this thing's taking up room in our office." And I'm like, "Oh, my bad."
Nice. So they
So,
wrap
but
that
my
thing up
brother's
like Fort
birthday is in
Knox,
like
and
a week, so I'll
there
just
you go.
save it for his birthday at this point.
Yeah.
He
Birthdays, bar
doesn't watch the
mitzvahs,
podcast.
tailgates. Dylan's funeral is apparently going to have a lot of them up. Is the
It'd have
plan.
all of them.
Yeah.
Baptisms.
I want my
Baptisms. Yeah.
You
casket
always
made out
forget.
of Blitzboards.
What's that?
I want, for the record, I want my casket made out of Blitzboards.
Okay. I mean, they're pretty solid materials. So
That's the thing; these are
work.
solid as hell. You
So
could Buffalo Bills one of these, and they wouldn't break.
would it be inappropriate if, like, before they lowered you in, we were rolling the dice back and forth, like playing a game?
Listen,
As
if
they
my
like,
funeral isn't a party, then don't have one. All right, listen. If I don't want, it'll be a good time. I'm always a good time, even dead,
yeah,
But I'm only 104, so
you're not going to be in a coffin. We're going to prop you up in a recliner with
perfect.
a Fidel Castro stogie in your.
Oh yeah, IU
Yeah.
fans not happy with me this week. Goodness. Well, I did compare him to North Korea, but when you're talking about framing photos of Bob Knight in every room, you know who else in history does that?
Little creepy.
North Korea.
Yeah.
Little North
Yeah.
Korea. What a cult that is. Did you guys read that article from the Indy Star? They were calling it like a
I skimmed it, but yeah, it was very, very cult like.
they're like this religious, thing that is Indiana basketball. It's like,
Yeah, I mean,
relax.
cult-like is pretty appropriate when you're talking about Indiana basketball fans, though. Like,
Didn't one of
think
you guys
that
send in the chat somebody saying they're going to win the Big Ten next year?
Yeah, it was a comment on Dan Dockich's tweet from yesterday.
That checks out.
By yesterday, I mean the day after the Big Ten season ended, saying, I believe that IU can still win the Big Ten.
I mean,
I'm assuming they meant tournament.
Trey Galloway and Anthony Lee are coming back next year, so they're definitely going to win the Big Ten. I mean,
Lord Almighty, Woodson for a lifetime contract. Please do it. We need it.
So, hey,
Damon's
looks
on his
like
way.
We have another guest on his way in here.
Oh my goodness, he's here.
I shouldn't even call him a guest. Our fearless
What's up, guys?
leader, our host.
Our fearless leader.
What's going on, Damon?
The boat steerer of this boat that is on fire all the time.
Yeah, and don't worry, the boat didn't get anywhere yet. We didn't really make any headway.
We've made it to I've already called or compared IU fans and North Koreans, so we're off to a hot start.
Yeah, I saw your tweet earlier. I had no clue.
The replies from IU fans, they were not fun. It's from so we were talking. There's an Indy Star article where they were calling like Indiana basketball like this spiritual place, and how it's a shame Woodson has let it go to where it's it was very cult like. And so IU fans were calling me things I cannot repeat on the podcast. One said I look like Fidel Castro because I have a cigar in my mouth in my profile photo. And then one called me not a nice word, and I will not repeat it. But, I love when I tweet something that's controversial, especially towards IU fans, and Twitter tries hiding it. and I click view, and it just rolls out the trolls. Man, it's one of my favorite things to do on Twitter. But was comparing them to North Korea a little too far? No, it wasn't.
No, not at all.
When you're, like I said earlier, when you're talking about framing photos of Bobby Knight in every room, come on, that's pretty cult-like.
I wish I had. So my grandpa has this picture that I hope to have inherit one day, and it's a picture of Bob Knight that's clearly photoshopped. It's him wearing a Purdue sweatshirt, and then it's signed by Bob Knight.
Is it really? That's impressive.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Bob.
Nice.
Yep.
Shame. He only
well, we didn't really get into the week yet, like I said, before Damon joined here, but it was a good week. I know we talked right after the Illinois game. So the only game we've had since then is the Wisconsin game at home, where we gave our seniors a nice send-off, beating Wisconsin 78-70, which the game was not that close. It was at 16 with 2 minutes left, and then they just got a couple threes and stole the ball from a walk-on, and they covered the spread, and Greg Gard apparently cashed on that. I guess that's what was going on.
It's weird. I've never heard of a basketball team letting seniors get one last standing O before they end the game. Weird.
Yeah, I know.
And then the walk-ons get that score a few points. Huh, weird.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Particularly the stealing the balls from walk-ons. So it was very clear that Painter was putting in the walk-ons. We dribbled it out the possession before. So that's the interesting thing. Lance Jones just stood there right across half court, dribbled it out, took the turnover, gave the ball back to Wisconsin. Purdue put in their walk-ons, and then stole the ball from Chase Martin. I believe it was Chase Martin, right?
Are you talking about a double standard here? Is that what you're doing?
Okay. So
wait, was the player that stole the ball, was he a walk-on, or was he like a upperclassman? Was he a nobody?
Yes, he was a senior, a Purdue senior walk-on, stole the ball from him, took it back, dunked the ball. I personally don't have a problem with that. I think that you play till the end, and if I believe it was Storr, I believe it was AJ Storr.
Yes, I think that's what Dylan was asking. Yeah, it was Storr that stole the ball from it. Was one of their starters.
No, it was not. No, he's a sophomore.
No, he's a senior. He's a transfer, isn't he? He's a transfer.
Oh, okay. Well, that must be why. Okay, yeah, transfer senior. But yeah, regardless, I don't have an issue with that personally. I know a lot of people do. They're calling Wisconsin classless. Maybe people were pointing out the fact that Greg Gard got really upset at Juwan Howard for doing something similar a couple seasons ago that led to an altercation. But like, I don't know. I don't have a problem with that personally. I think that you keep playing until the whistle. I think that if Painter wanted to sub out his guys and let walk-ons go in there and play, they should go in there ready to play. And like you said, Purdue led by 16 with 2 minutes to go, and they hit a couple threes and had that steal to make the game look closer than it was. But personally, I don't have an issue with that. But am I in the minority here? Is anyone disagree with me on that?
I want to correct something real quick. He is actually a sophomore, but he's a transfer as well. So
okay.
So he's been playing for a few years.
So I don't have an issue with it because I agree with you, Frank. I think competition is competition. You play to the final whistle. However, what this does make me realize is I mean, even though these guys are walk-ons, they were walk-ons at one of the best Division I programs in all of the country. So it's they were probably also really good in high school too. So just what I was thinking about is the difference in talent between a Division I, scholarship athlete most of the time, versus just a walk-on, because I'm sure those guys, again, the walk-ons were all probably pretty good in high school. Kind of had to be to get, even a walk-on eligibility at Purdue. And then those guys, they come in there and drop 8 points on them real quick and get a few turnovers. So that's what I thought. I wasn't mad about it. I was just thinking about the difference in talent level. It was just kind of what I was thinking of. It was just how crazy it is.
So I thought where Frank was going to go and maybe what he was going to mention, and maybe he was getting there. But the reason I have an issue with it is a while back there was a certain altercation between Juwan Howard and Greg Gard over this very thing. When Wisconsin pulled their starters and put in walk-ons and backups, and Michigan starters put on a full court press and were trying to steal the ball even though the game was already decided. And that's when you had that issue where Juwan Howard punched one of the Wisconsin assistants, and there was a big scuffle and everything after the game. So for somebody that, in Greg Gard that took issue with that kind of lack of sportsmanship, I take issue with the double standard of now doing that to Purdue because you're a sore loser, and you can't take the fact that your season's gone down the drain from where it was 2 months ago.
And didn't that Wall guy, the dude, he's a senior for Wisconsin, isn't there like he's like unhappy or something? Like he didn't even come to the podium for their senior day, like last week or something. I've heard some stuff about he's like potentially going to Illinois and all sorts of stuff.
I didn't hear that, but I didn't like some of his chippiness in the game. There was a couple times that he kind of ran through some Purdue guys after the play was over. Did it to Edey once or twice, and Edey was kind of putting his hands up like, what is this guy doing? I guess they're just trying to keep the
he like clearly smacked the ball out of Edey's hand, like right in
Yeah,
front.
that was one of the times, yeah.
And then it looked like he was gonna step up to Edey after he did it. And then he just kind of pats Edey on the chest as if to say, like, hey, good game, man. Like it was if he like immediately realized his mistake. Because like they were battling for a rebound and the whistle blew and they stepped away and then he just smacked the ball right out of Edey's hand. And
like Trace Jackson Davis in the face of Mason Gillis.
Man. Like it was like, I feel like that was a moment of, like passion for him, strong emotion. And then he realized that like, oh man, maybe this is a route I don't want to go down today.
But also, we shouldn't be surprised about Wisconsin doing this because they had Brad Davison at one point in time.
That's what I was going to say. They're keeping the Brad Davison tradition alive. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they loved that guy, and he was a piece of crap. So, just kidding. He's probably a nice person, but just didn't like him as a basketball player.
Well, there are some players where everyone hates him. Like Zach Edey's probably an example of this. Everyone hates him, but if you would ask him, hey, you want him to come play for your team, they would be like, yeah, for sure.
I wouldn't want
Brad Davison is not one of those guys. No, yeah. He's a guy that I hate, and I would never want him to play for my team. Coleman Hawkins, probably the other one that I hate, and I would not want him to play.
We need to talk about with Zach Edey. I just feel so bad for the guy because it's got to be hard to like find clothes being 7'4" and as giant as he is. And it's like he always is just either wearing like sweatpants and some really big long sweatshirt or like his Mr. Rogers outfit that he wore on senior day. I think it was James Nobal that tweeted like girls in bikinis on this app will get thousands of likes, but how much will this heroic, selfless middle school teacher get?
Science teacher, yeah.
It's so good. It's got to be hard to find at least like pants that fit 7 foot.
I mean, he couldn't even find shoes for the longest time, right? Because Nike didn't even make him that big or something. And
he's National Player of the Year, plays Division I basketball for one of the best, and still he can't find. It makes you wonder. Like I've heard a few stories of like high schoolers that have like insanely large feet. And Shaquille O'Neal has gone out and bought shoes for him. And so it's crazy that of all people, Zach can't find shoes to fit him.
Very, very off the wall reference here. Have you guys seen The Blind Side?
Yeah.
Do you remember the scene when they take Michael Oher to get clothes and they're like, we don't have any, this is all we have that'll fit you is these shirts. And they're like, isn't this the big and tall store? And they're like, yeah, you need the bigger and taller store.
The bigger and taller. Wait, Zach Edey needs to open up his own store for people that are over 7 foot.
I don't know if he'll stay in business. There's probably a reason that store doesn't exist. People like making money. If that was a store that would make money, it would exist. But
all right, but where do you shop? You're 7'5".
Pretty niche. Oh yeah, okay.
Dude, I saw a graphic today that was talking about all the 7-footers that we've had at Purdue, and somebody put Braden Smith in there and listed him as 7'1".
That's great.
There's a comment here I want to ask you guys
the
about.
Noodle.
Comment from the Noodle. This is why conference tourney games worry me. Some of these guys no longer have anything to lose. How do you guys feel about that? You think there's an element of truth to that?
Well, I put that poll on Twitter and asked who thinks the conference tourney means more or the regular season, and the regular season won by a long shot.
But I also want to ask with that, are we just saying that because we've won the conference, the in-season tournament? So like if we don't win the conference tournament, we don't feel as bad? Or is it actually because we just don't care?
No, I mean if we didn't win the regular season, I'd want to win the tournament. I mean, I want to win the tournament either way, but like in our position that we're in, that Purdue's in right now, if we lose the Big Ten tournament, I don't want to say it's not as big as a deal, but it's not as big as a loss as if we were like on the bubble or something like that. Right, that's probably pretty obvious. But after winning back-to-back regular seasons, if we don't win the tournament, it's kind of like, well, we get a few extra days rest, I guess. But also, I think the few extra day rest is kind of not as big of a deal because I mean these guys are in pretty good shape. You know, it's good to stay warm. It's good to stay in game shape. So I don't think they're going to be that much more tired if they make
I
the
see.
tournament.
So the
Yeah,
noodle
I got
followed up here.
Yeah, I
Followed
understood
up
what the
with
noodle
to
was
this
saying.
comment.
Yeah.
And you're saying that like other guys from other teams may possibly play dirty because it's their last
Like
game,
Brad
and like why
Davison.
not?
A little scrappy.
Yeah, like Brad
I will
Davison
say
style.
there was a lot of talk about that last year, and it didn't really come to fruition. And it's not something you can really worry about because, you know, it's not quite like football. Because I know football, there's a saying that like if you play like you're afraid to get hurt, you're going to get hurt. Like you can't if you think about it and you try to play cautious, that's when you're going to get hurt. Like you can't. You just got to let the officials hopefully control the game and just play your game.
The only time that I'm going to be worried about like Zach Edey getting hurt because of somebody doing something stupid on the other team is if we play Duke in the tournament somewhere down the line and Kyle Filipowski falls over and
Man,
decides
but the
to
way
stick his
he's
leg out
come
there.
back, after that storm
Super brave. Super brave.
God, I don't know
Yeah.
how he's done it. My God,
Really heroic, dude.
what a
Yeah.
hero! I mean, it's like him and DeMar Hamlin. I mean, it's right then and there. I don't know how he did it, man. Good Lord. So,
I got
Well,
some
yeah,
more
one
tournament
thing-
questions. Oh, sorry.
I would
Right
say
there.
one thing we haven't talked about before we get too far into this. We haven't talked about the injury scares that happened in the Wisconsin game, right? Zach went down. My heart skipped a few beats there for a minute as he grabbed his ankle in pain and then struggled to get up. I'm
I
like,
almost
oh
needed
great, here we go
CPR.
again. Then shortly after, same thing happened to Braden. He stepped on the referee's foot after making a shot, and which I thought was crazy. And then he actually left the game, came back. I was super happy to see him get back in the game. And then I saw, something that honestly shouldn't be aired on television. Chucky Hepburn had a minor scratch on his forehead as a result of Zach Edey. It's a miracle he was able to get up from that one.
They've got some UFC quality cut guys over there at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
To be able to get him stitched up, man.
The amount of pictures I saw of that on Twitter after the game, it's like, oh, Zach Edey gets away with everything, and there's this like tiny little cut on Chucky Hepburn's forehead from Zach's like thumbnail. I'm like, really? This is the argument that like you're putting forward about like how Zach Edey gets away with everything. Like
the best is when
he's
they
on the
zoomed in
ground,
on him.
like, oh, I can't get up, and he
pulled
has
a
this
LeBron.
Yeah, Dakota Mathias got stitches at halftime, came back in the game.
That's
Like,
right.
So,
Midwest Cowboy.
since we're on that subject of Edey and foul calls and physicality, I will say that after watching this Wisconsin game, I understand a little bit opposing fan bases and the players that get upset at certain foul calls they get hit with while guarding Zach Edey. I get it. I get why they're upset now. It's because on other plays, they'll be shoving Zach with both hands in his back, just mugging the crap out of him, and they don't call a foul. And then they call a little touch foul in the next possession.
Mm-hmm.
So like I get that frustration because like I don't know how many plays he scored against Wisconsin where, you know, he was getting shoved the whole time from the moment he started posting up to when he gets fed the ball, he scores, and he even gets pushed kind of away after he scored, and there's no call, and he's kind of like, I don't understand what happened there. But then other times it's like they breathe on him and it's a foul call. So I do understand that level of frustration because the officiating as a whole was very delayed and very terrible, right? Like there was the delayed goaltending call, which wasn't a goaltending, and then they delayed and we're like, oh, wait, we can't review it unless we call it goaltending. So let's call it goaltending now that it's 30 seconds later and then go review it. And then it wasn't conclusive enough to take it off the clock or take it off the board or put the points back on the board, I guess, because they call it goaltending.
Then the phantom call that was a foul on nobody with Gillis. Well, like one ref blew the whistle, one pointed to, I think it was Chucky Hepburn, and the other pointed to Gillis. And then it was like, wait, what? And then they got together and they were like, oh, where's the foul? And then they just decided it was on Mason Gillis. I mean, it's rare that you hear commentary bash the officiating to the level that we heard. But I think like at the end, like Robbie Hummel even said, like this has been a very poorly officiated game.
Because there was also several calls that happened like well after. Like it was almost like they were waiting to see if the ball went in, and then they called a foul on the shot. And it was just like, we waited 30 seconds later to call it? I don't understand.
Welcome to our friends in Ohio saying congratulations on the Big Ten championship. I'm sure Big Mac Mary is happy somewhere.
Big Mac Mary?
Amen.
Big Mac
Go
Mary.
back and listen to our previous episode if you want the backstory on that one.
Is Big Mac Mary kind of like Purdue's Martha the Mop Lady Is that
I
like?
guess. No, she actually made a appearance in the comments in their last on their last show. So she's
Okay.
she's
That's cool.
so Big Mac Mary has the hots for their guy Aaron. So Aaron's a happily married man, has a beautiful family, but
That's that
Big Mac
uniform.
Mary's
He's
got
a
a
military guy, right?
lot to offer. Yeah,
That's what
and
it
he's a
is.
Boilermaker. Fun fact.
Oh yeah, see
Graduated
that's what
from
it is,
Purdue.
man. Yeah.
So he's really one of us, whether he likes it or not.
Right.
But yeah, so the OHIO show now does a call-in show, and it's awesome. I call in just for shits and giggles. They got a good thing going. And then I asked Eric how to do it because I thought we could do it. It sounds very difficult and way above my pay grade.
And Russ, one more comment here on the subject of Edie and fouls. I know we did go live after the Illinois game. I didn't go back and listen to Brad Underwood's press conference until after that, but I do think it's funny, and I think I should mention it. He said in his post-game press conference that he purposely fouled Zach Edey. He put their center who doesn't play in with the intent to just foul him and get him into foul trouble because, and I quote, realistically, he's not a great free throw shooter, I think is what he said.
Which is
so
hilarious.
the hope was foul him, he makes one, and then you get the ball back. And so it's been highly speculated. It's been confirmed a couple of times that teams go into games with the intent to purposely foul him. And then we've had two coaches come right out and say it. But the funny thing is to go back and watch that game, know that those fouls were committed intentionally, and see the fans lose their mind. Like, that's a terrible call. I mean, like, they showed students with their hands on their head. They can't believe the call they just seen. Like, he grabbed Edey around the waist and tried to throw him to the ground. Like, what? I mean, it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. It's crazy how our minds bias what we see. But I mean, I think that in the Wisconsin game, I just feel like there was a lot of inconsistency. I felt like there was that clip going around of Edey running into Chucky Hepburn. I feel like that could have been a block on Chucky Hepburn, honestly. Like the way they were calling it in that game, like, I mean, like, I'm fine with the no call, but like, Chucky Hepburn slid in front of a rolling Zach Edey. Like, Zach Edey sets a screen, rolls to the basket, Chucky Hepburn slides in front of him. They're like, oh, but that's punishing him for being tall, in my opinion.
It's like he can only get his arms so low.
Yeah, if that were Braden Smith, no one would be clipping it on Twitter, but I don't know. It's just silly sometimes.
The funny thing about that statement by the high quality Brad Underwood as well, high quality coach there, is he admitted his game plan was to put Edey at the free throw line, and he shot 4 free throws, which is probably the least that he shot all season.
Couldn't even execute his game plan.
Yeah, you couldn't even execute what he admitted publicly was his game plan. He couldn't execute it. So, but yeah, so Wisconsin did fall to Purdue on Sunday, and Purdue wrapped up a 28-3 regular season, which I believe, I was looking through here, it looks like it's the most regular season wins Painter's had in his time at Purdue. So very dominant, 17-3 conference record. It's the highest number of wins. It's the best conference record since we've gone to 20 games in the conference schedule. So no other team has done better. I think last year's 15. No, there's a 16-4. We went 16-4 in 2019. So we beat our own record as far as best record on the 20-game schedule. Back-to-back conference schedule, or back-to-back conference champs by 3 games, which is the first time that's been done since the 75 and 76 Indiana Hoosiers, unfortunately. So fortunately, we get to break their record. So we're now the last team to win back-to-back regular season championships by 3 or more games. And we're the number 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament. Of course, awards came out today as well. So it was announced that Painter is co-Big Ten Coach of the Award, or Coach of the Year, with Fred Hoiberg from Nebraska. You've got the first team, all Big Ten, had Braden Smith and Zach Edey on there. You had Mason Gillis, 6th Man of the Year. And the cool award to me was that Brandon Brantley is the Assistant Coach of the Year in the Big Ten this year. So any thoughts on those awards, guys? Anybody that maybe got snubbed? Or
I thought Gillis was just an honorable mention.
No, he did win 6th Man of the Year. Yeah,
I swear I saw like a ton of things that said honorable mention.
There was a weird post by either the Big Ten or by a Purdue account that said 6th Man of the Year, and then underneath it said honorable mention. So I was trying to look up and see, was he honorable mention all Big Ten?
I mean, that would make sense, but
yes, that's what it was. So he was honorable mention all Big Ten, and Lance Jones and Fletcher Lawyer also got honorable mention all Big Ten.
Gotcha.
6th Man of the Year is such a weird award. It's like, you are the best player who doesn't start. It's just a weird, like, This is a weird
who
concept,
hasn't
isn't
started
it?
a certain number of games too? Because there were certain
Yeah.
players that they were supposedly in the running for it over Gillis that started like a third of the games this season or something, or they got suspended for a certain number of games, and so they were technically eligible, even though anytime they're healthy, they were starting the game.
Well,
Yeah,
Russ,
like,
to answer your question, I don't disagree with anything. I feel like everything was appropriately placed. You know, Paint did get coach of the year with Fred Hoiberg, which seems to upset a lot of people, particularly in the Nebraska fan base. They think that there's no skill required to coach Zach Edey. You just put him under the basket and let him do his thing, and that just doesn't require good coaching. And that Hoiberg deserves it more because they were projected bottom of the Big Ten and they finished fourth or fifth, and that's more deserving. I mean, really, you could argue it either way, and I think at the end of the day, calling him coach of the year is probably the best solution to it. I see Damon shaking his head. I know how he feels on this. Damon, what's the argument in opposition?
Good job getting second place in coach of the year, but you are, for lack of a better term, shit 99% of the time. And it's like 1 year you have Kaisi Tominaga just light it up from everywhere. And I know they had other good players too, but I just don't think that, you should get rewarded because your team's crap most of the time, but this year you finished like fourth or fifth. So like, good job, buddy. Like that's, that if you want anything, give him a participation trophy, but he's not coach of the year. He's not Matt Painter, who's just won the Big Ten back to back by 3 games every single year.
What?
And then, it's like, it just makes no sense. They have been dominant. Not only last year, he didn't even get it last year. Chris Collins got it last year for being better than, subpar. And then this year
It was Co last year too.
he was co last year. I thought Chris Collins got it over him.
Damon is so back.
It was like I think Collins was maybe media and then Painter was coaches or something like that. Like it was Co last year as well.
Gotcha. Yeah. But I just think it's so dumb to reward like, oh, well, you're usually really bad, and this year you're like middle of the pack, lower middle of the pack. So like, here you go, good job. Like, here's a good, here's your second place trophy, but Matt Painter is above and beyond first, the best coach in the Big Ten this year and last year.
There's a comment here. Big Ten Network asked Payne about Hoiberg, and he answered talking about Izzo. I'm gonna have to look that up. That sounds funny. It sounds really funny.
That sounds funny.
Yeah.
I will say, let's walk that out a little bit. It doesn't take any skill to coach Zach Edey. So it takes no skill to recruit the 436th ranked recruit in the country and coach him to back-to-back National Player of the Year awards. Takes no skill. Like, okay. Interesting take.
Right, and it's like there's so many. I mean, how many 7'3", 7'4" players do we see? Like, people will look up, and I feel bad for these guys because they didn't do anything wrong. They're just tall and playing basketball somewhere else. And we're like, see, look at this person. They're only averaging 7 points a game and like 4 rebounds. They're not, they don't have the skill.
I feel terrible for those guys. It's like it's just like their sole purpose for existence in the Purdue fan base's eyes is to be compared to Zach Edey.
Right.
Can you bring up,
another constant thing I see is that Zach Edey does not deserve National Player of the Year. It should go to Dalton Connect. And I've heard the argument. Dalton Connect's shorter. Dalton Connect can shoot threes. He can shoot mid ranges. He's a better NBA prospect. I mean, I've heard all sorts of arguments. And
did Zach Edey not make a 3? Did he?
Oh, he did. Yeah, he made one.
One's better.
But he's a better modern player, and that Connect's a better modern player because the modern player has to be 6'6" and versatile. And the eye test, that was one I saw on Twitter the other day. Just eye test will tell you Connect's a better player. But how do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about it seems like those two are kind of the front runners. It seems like Edey's probably going to win. This probably sounds bad, but I really don't care who wins, to be honest with you. Like, it's not significant in my opinion, but how do you guys feel about that?
Before we get too much into that, I do want to say that I think 7-footers can also thank Zach Edey, because the fact that Zach Edey has won back-to-back National Player of the Year, he's kind of resurrected the 7-footer in college basketball now. So, like, how many 7-footers now are going to get recruited and given a chance by bigger schools because they think, hey, if Painter could do it with Zach Edey, we could do it with our own 7-footer. So I think that it's like a give and take with that. Like, yeah, there's some guys that have been put to shame by what Zach has done, but it's also opened the door, I think, for, and it's got to be a big door because you're talking about a door that can fit a 7-footer.
Yeah, but
But
not a
he's
lot of
opened
coaches.
doors. Yeah.
I feel like not a lot of coaches can develop like Paint does.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that I
100%.
agree with.
Coach
Paint's a
Brantley.
But
hell
there's a
of
lot of coaches that
Yeah.
think they can, though. There's a lot of coaches that think they can.
Because you look at Zach when he first came to Purdue compared to now, dude's a beast. I mean, he's a beast then too, but just physically, he's built massively compared to when he first got to Purdue. So a lot of it is credit to Paint and his ability to develop guys. And Paint's the
I just
man.
wish I would love to go back 4 years from now and just see and go through Twitter and just see what everybody's thoughts were on Zach Edey, like when we first got to see him play. Because I know I was definitely like not very impressed right away, obviously. And he really didn't. I mean, he's grown exponentially with each year, but like he really exploded from his sophomore to junior season. So I don't know. I think it'd be fun to go back and see what everybody's thoughts were initially on Zach Edey. But in
I mean, they
regards
still
to
say the same shit. It's just they're still dumb.
But I
in regard
remember
to the-
people being like Matt Harms, who like that was a big. I remember that was a big thing because they were like, who needs No Gel and Matt Harms, because the two of those guys transferred in that offseason. Like we've got Jaden Ivey and Zach Edey. Is the way but I feel like he had a good game. I'm looking now. I feel like he had a really good game.
I think it was like
he had 19 points in his debut. He was 9 for 10 from the floor in his very first game.
Okay.
Because he was actually Ken Palm MVP of that game against Liberty, which I actually recently watched that game.
That's right, because that was like at a tournament, like a early season tournament, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was the first game of the COVID era where like it was crazy to go back and watch because like all the players were spread out. There were like like 2 seats between every player on the bench, and there's no one in the stands. But that was a game where I realized how good Travion was because I just got so desensitized to it. He was so good. But that was Ivey's coming out game too. He had 12 points. So yeah, those two, Ivey and Edey led the team as true freshmen in scoring in that game. And what was a fairly close game.
But in regard to like the National Player of the Year talk, though, I think Dalton Connect's, I mean, obviously a more exciting player to watch. Like that's just, Edey's working in the post. He's doing like the dirty, like blue collar type of, meat and potatoes basketball. Where Dalton Connect's, he's out there, like they said, he's out there shooting threes. He's doing all sorts of stuff. Like he's more exciting, but he's not more efficient. He doesn't help his team more than Zach Edey helps Purdue. Like that's just statistics. But I mean, Dalton Connect's probably more exciting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I've responded this way in that people always say, well, if Zach Edey wasn't 7'4", he wouldn't be. He basically wouldn't be who he is today, which is a crazy concept to think about.
Wait,
honestly,
can we quote Coach Paint there when he just said no shit?
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, but I just think that like if Edey were 6'6", he wouldn't have practiced playing in the post so much. He would have practiced shooting threes. He would have practiced scoring from the mid range. He would have practiced passing a little bit more. But when you're 7'4" and you're built like Zach Edey, what are you going to practice? You're going to practice post because that's what's going to give you the biggest advantage over your opponent. So when you're averaging like 1.2 points per shot in the post, like that's where you're going to specialize. And this whole notion that like, well, post play has gone away in the NBA. I mean, look at the last 3 MVPs: Jokic twice, Joel Embiid. I mean, Joel has a little bit of a mid range, tries to shoot threes, but like Jokic shoots a few threes, but those guys are both primarily post players. And then like before it was Giannis, who is mostly a post player, but not necessarily a back to the basket type of player. But this whole notion that like post play is like doesn't exist in the NBA, it's just not true. I have a comment here. Dalton Connect doesn't rebound, assist, or play defense. I can't speak to his defense, but he takes a lot of shots. I mean, I think he takes like 18 shots per game last time I checked. So, I mean, yeah, you're going to score a lot of points. But I just think he's the best player on a bad offensive team. And Tennessee makes their living on defense. I think that's pretty well known, but they're not the best offensive team without him. So he has to take 18 shots per game where, Purdue has a little bit more around Zach Edey, but our offense is definitely centered around Zach Edey for sure. But he opens up shots for other guys.
You got to show Eric's comment here from the OHIO podcast. He said that's like saying if I wasn't fat, I could run faster. That made me.
Yeah,
Eric, you are slim as can be, brother. I don't know what you're talking about. We're
Well,
both.
I thought you were gonna say another quote by Painter that he said Zach Edey has exceptional skill combined with elite height, and that you combine those, you get back-to-back National Player of the Year awards.
Yeah,
that's what you get.
I need to clip his no shit and have that be a soundbite. We need Chris
and wasn't
to do
the last guy that won National Player of the Year back to back, that Ralph Sampson guy? Wasn't he like 7 foot as well, like 7+ or?
Yeah, it's
something?
almost like when you're almost as tall as the basket, you can put the ball in the basket better than anyone else. It's a very weird concept. Odd. Who knows?
Yeah, he was actually 7'4". I just had to look it up. Yeah,
look at you, Dame. Look at you killing it. A little history there.
Yeah, stealing the history resident from Russ.
Well, Russ is just old. He's just seen it all.
Yeah.
When you've lived history, you know history.
Just because you have my old basketball with the barbed wire there.
My tweet, that was wild. I saw that at an antique store. I'm like, who's putting that in their house? Just a ball of barbed wire.
Mick Foley.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or the kid that jumps on him from he goes woo woo and jumps on the barbed wire. That kid. Sorry, go ahead. Little tangent.
I don't know.
Damon and I talking wrestling. Don't worry about it.
But Dalton Connect and Zach Edey, they also impact the game way differently. And I would say, Zach Edey just impacts it, and Dalton Connect doesn't really impact it. Like Dalton Connect is just a really good wing basketball player, right? He's a great scorer. Like was pointed out, he doesn't really assist the ball great. He doesn't get a lot of rebounds, doesn't get a lot of steals. But Zach Edey changes the way the game is played. Like, you cannot play Purdue and ignore Zach Edey. You can't just say, hey, we're going to let Zach Edey get his and try to stop everybody else, because you're going to get destroyed, right? You can't say, all we're going to do is double Zach Edey and leave shooters open, because you're going to get destroyed. Like, Zach Edey is somebody that you have to game plan differently for than anybody else in the country. I mean, you look at the all Big Ten team, and it's 5 guards and Zach Edey. It's literally a guard and wing dominated game, and even the NBA is that way. And Zach Edey can still go win National Player of the Year in back-to-back years. Like, that should say something about how much he dominates the game, how much he changes the way that teams play us, because you can't. There's nothing you can do to him that he hasn't seen already, and that's more and more true the more games that are played. And that's what I think is going to be one of the deciders and the X factors in the tournament this year.
Well, and it's like Jay Billis said in that really discussion that kind of went viral. It took place at Alabama when they were arguing kind of the same subject here, Zach Edey versus Dalton Connect. And he said Zach Edey is the only player in the country where you have to craft your whole defense around playing him. And Painter's often talked about too how it's almost at a disadvantage sometimes, because you can scout what teams do defensively, but you have no idea. You have absolutely no idea what they're going to do when they play Zach Edey. Interesting comment here. Does he go first in the NBA draft? I'm not sure if that was about Dalton Connect or Zach Edey, but regardless, I'm going to say the answer is no for either one of those guys. But to talk about the Big Ten all first team, Marcus Damask, Terrence Shannon Jr., Boo Buie. Boo Buie's in all caps for some reason. This is on the Big Ten's website. I don't know if they just wanted to. His name's fun to say, so Boo Buie.
Because Zach Edey and Boo Buie were both unanimous selections.
Oh, that must be it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Edey is in all caps too. Zach Edey, Braden Smith. So 2 Purdue players, 2 Illinois players. Boo Buie.
You guys know that Boo Buie's real name is Daniel Richard? Anyway.
I looked it up one night when we were playing.
Yeah, but Dan Bowie doesn't sound as cool as Boo Buie.
Yeah. So one thing I think is interesting, and I'm not sure I necessarily even agree with this. I think it's interesting though. Coleman Hawkins, honorable mention. Not second team, not third team. And this is a guy who is self-proclaimed, defensive player of the year. It went to Ace Baldwin Jr. Can't think of anyone more deserving personally. But first team, again, Marcus Damask, Terrence Shannon, Boo Buie, Zach Edey, Braden Smith. How do we feel about that? I feel like anyone's left off. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Purdue-wise, no, not at all. I think Braden and Zach are easily deserve to be on that team.
Looking at the second team, Jameer Young, Tyson Walker, Tominaga, AJ Storr, and Tony Perkins. Could you make the case for any of those guys to be first team over over who I mentioned on the first team. I feel like Marcus Damask. I feel like he's Illinois' best player. Like Terrence Shannon has had like spurts. He also missed a stretch of games this season as well that were for non-injury related reasons. You can Google that one if you want to know more about that. I don't know. I definitely feel like AJ Storr or Jameer Young could be swapped out for Terrence Shannon Jr.
So Jameer Young was actually voted on the media first team.
Yeah.
So he was kind of a half first team. I think when you officially list the first team, he's listed with all of them. That's why I say there's 6 of them technically on the first team, because when you list the all Big Ten first team.
What year is Jameer Young?
I think this is his last season, right?
I was going to say, I wonder if he transferred out.
Yes, because I think it was. I'm going to give Raphael Davis credit because we love Raphael Davis. I think he pointed out, or no, actually, it might have been Joe Jackson, another friend of the pod. He pointed out that the only of the 6 players that were voted either media or coaches first team, the only player that's coming back next year is Braden Smith. All the rest of them, maybe they're
fingers crossed he's coming back next season. I mean,
Really?
Purdue has been really fortunate in that we haven't been hit hard by the transfer portal. So I saw a tweet today from someone who has a lot of followers and a blue check mark. I don't know who it is, but that they said 5 Maryland players are expected to enter the portal this offseason. And like Purdue's been fairly fortunate that they haven't been, but like I keep everything
Frank,
as a possibility.
You done gave me a heart attack, man. I was like, I thought you were about to break some news that you saw somebody say Braden Smith's going to enter the transfer portal.
No, I'm just saying that like Purdue's been very fortunate.
If anything, he would go to NBA. He wouldn't go to the transfer portal.
Russ is old. You can't be.
That's where I thought he was going with it too, Damon. I was like, oh, okay, so maybe he's heard some news that Braden might.
I mean, he turned down potentially or allegedly turned down $500K from Gonzaga. So I don't know. I don't see Braden leaving in the portal. If anything, he goes to the NBA draft. But
Russ, a heart attack live would have gave us some views.
Well, maybe post production views, like I don't know about live.
Well, here's a comment. We'll watch the rest tomorrow. If not too soon, please. Opinion on who may leave. I'm assuming is what. Just a typo there. Yeah. Do we want to have this conversation?
I don't really want to. I don't like that. I don't like.
I think Chase Martin probably leaves. I'd say Mason Gillis, Zach Edey.
Well done.
Carson Barrett definitely.
So I think we can have this conversation. I think maybe we wait till the season's over, right?
This is I was gonna say the conversation we can have is numbers wise. Let's talk about like numbers. Like I think like we talked about this in our thread that I would put the over under at 2.5 transfers or 2.5 people at least leaving the program.
Transfer out.
Yes, transfer out. So I'll let you guys kind of look at the roster and decide who based on maybe who had more minutes in earlier years and their minutes have diminished, or guys that maybe were scholarship players that have not really played much at all, even though they're technically on scholarship. So yeah, look at guys on the roster like that. That's why I think transfers. I don't think that you're going to see major contributors transfer from this year. Mm-hmm. That's all. Let's put it that way.
I'm gonna say I genuinely hope no one transfers.
Right.
Like, but I'll get it if they do. Like last season with Brandon Newman, that's how I felt. Like, man, I really hope you don't transfer, but if you do, I get it. Like, I understand. Like Brandon Newman was the guy that just everyone wanted to do really well. Everyone wanted to see Brandon Newman succeed. I remember at the Big Ten tournament when he came in after like not playing for 7 or 8 games in a row, and then came in and played really well against Penn State, helped to secure the win. The stadium was chanting his name. That was really cool. But yeah, he never materialized at Purdue in terms of what we saw that from that potential in him. So he's
I'll
had
put
really
it this way though, someone has to transfer. Something has to give because
that is a real thing. Yeah, or someone goes to walk on.
Yeah, we are maxed out on scholarships, and we lost 5 scholarship athletes. Right, the 4 guys that have been playing, and then Carson Barrett was put on scholarship. So we lost 5 scholarships, and we're adding 6 scholarships next year. So we'll be 1 over if everybody stays. So yeah, somebody's got to give up their scholarship, or somebody's got to transfer at the very least.
I mean, and to me, the fact that we have more players coming in than are leaving means that conversation's already been had by somebody somewhere.
Yes and no, because Painter's talked about not at length really, but I think it's come up either in press conferences or in the coaches shows that you have to kind of overcommit. You have to stack classes. You can't just assume everybody's going to stay. Like you almost have to over recruit. You almost have to bring in more guys than you have openings at the time because you've got to realize that somebody's going to leave. Somebody's going to leave that you weren't expecting to. He has conversations with everybody. Go back to the Harms and the Eastern transfers where he talked about those guys, not necessarily negatively, but was like, I don't know what you think you see that's greener on the other side that you think you spent, you made the best choice for you as a freshman or incoming freshman. And you said, hey, this is the best place for me. They're going to develop me. They're going to work with me. And you're going to spend 3 years there and then think that you're going to go somewhere else and come in as a senior. And they're going to prioritize you over guys that have been in the program for 2 or 3 years or over recruits that they're bringing in that they want to develop. Like the grass is not going to be greener. He doesn't understand why guys want to go do that. But he also understands that that's a reality of today's college sports, that people are going to leave.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe this is just the new norm, right? You just start to over recruit. I mean, and Purdue and roster management has always been kind of a weird thing. Do you guys remember the Basil Smotherman redshirt as a junior? He redshirted as a junior. So I mean, it's just there's all sorts of mystery around what's going to happen next season, who's going to play and who's going to start, and if we start down that route, we'll be here all night in terms of what the starting five looks like. And as Painter showed us over and over again, it's not necessarily who starts; it's who plays the most minutes. TKR started every game; he hasn't played the most minutes every game. It really doesn't matter, at the end of the day. But
so that's one thing I want to throw out there too, since we've been kind of around on the awards and some of the things that have happened the last week. But the coaches,
Russ, you just sound like an alien there for a second. That was crazy.
You just had a remix there for
wow.
Keep your DJ equipment away from the podcast, please.
It literally sounded like an alien from the movie Signs. So
he's old enough to be a damn alien.
Yeah.
So it works out.
But Russ,
hey,
Russ,
nice.
I don't want to interrupt you. One more thing I want to say is that we're gonna have a log jam next season, regardless. We got 6 guys coming in. We got BIig, we got TKR. I mean, we're stacked at every position. And a comment here from our buddy Sonny, reboot Russ. Agreed.
Ooh.
Yeah, sounded like he was having a blue
money
screen
in the house
over there.
That's my.
I'm sorry, Russ. Go right ahead with whatever point you're about to make.
On.
I'm sure it's going to be.
I came up for a good nickname for Sonny Money, or Money Sonny, whichever one. Well, okay, go ahead.
We'll let Sonny decide which one he likes better.
Love you, Sonny.
Sonny on the money, maybe.
Ooh, there you go.
Ooh, there you go. That'd be like a
money.
whole segment for him. There you go. Trademark.
Yeah. Who's old now? You're welcome. But no, I do want to talk about
old.
People that say Painter has the same team from last year pretty much, and all they did was the same thing we did last year. Why is he coach of the year? There's some major things that he's changed this year. If you've paid attention to the rotation and some of the tactics that he's using, yes, naturally we've gotten better at 3-point shooting, and you could argue that just happened naturally, and it's not something that the Painter schemed, but you can't argue that he has changed up the way he's done his starting lineup. Like last year and really for a while, he's always included one guy. He's kind of had a 2 guards, maybe 2 bigs, and then he has like a glue guy that is maybe just the defensive specialist that's not really a threat on offense. I won't name any names. But this year he decided, no, I'm going with 3 guards that can all score, and then I'm going with the 2 bigs. And that has really changed our offensive efficiency with the starting lineup. And putting Gillis on the bench and having TKR be the starting big next to Edey has given our bench a burst. And yeah, our bench has not had a ton of high-scoring games. There's been a lot of games where our bench has had 2 points, 4 points, 3 points, whatever. But having Gillis, obviously he's the 6th man for a reason. He has an impact off the bench that he wouldn't have as a starter, because you can't have that impact as a second big man starter next to Zach Edey. Like, you've got to come off the bench and play some of those minutes where Edey's not going to play in order to have maximum impact. So that has been huge for our team this year. Heidi is somebody that he started the season on low minutes, and he's come on and done better, and that's allowed us to finish a lot stronger in the regular season than we did last year. Now, it's ironic, and it's kind of laughable when people say we sputtered in the NCAA tournament last year when we won the Big Ten tournament last year. But I understand that we did drop some games down the stretch in the regular season. But that's something that didn't happen this year, right? We finished strong this year as opposed to last year. So there's a lot of changes that I've seen aside from just, he brought in the same team. That's not
Also,
fair.
if there's anybody out there that says, "Oh, he brought in the same team and won the season by 3 games again this year, why should he be coach of the year?" That is literally the answer right there. He just won the conference by 3 games again. Like, nobody can compare to Matt Painter right now as far as in conference basketball. So if anybody's saying that, kind of dumb. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
good. So
I do think that Lance Jones adds more of a dimension than he's given credit for to our team. I mean, he's a guy who's not afraid to shoot, which we had a little bit of that last season, but his ability to get out in transition and put pressure on the defense is something that we just did not have offensively last season. But I think that he's not given enough credit for the dynamic that he adds to the team. And offensively, I mean, or defensively, sorry. On defense, he's a menace. So that's something that people say it's basically the same team. There's that added aspect that I feel like doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion. But question on Lance Jones: Russ is imploding over there. Is that Russ?
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on. Yeah. Okay. Well, question on Lance Jones: Is Lance Jones going to be the most remembered fifth-year transfer in Purdue history?
Yes.
So you think about guys like John Ocbius, Jihad Proctor, who we talked about last night. Don't know how I tend to forget about him. No offense, Jihad. I just like David Jenkins Jr., right? Sterling Carter.
Johnny Hill was that
Johnny
one?
Hill. Yeah, Johnny Hill. And here we are, we're struggling to think of these guys, right? But it's hard for me to imagine forgetting about Lance Jones 2 or 3 years from now. Because I look back and saw Jihad Proctor, I'm like, man, I forgot. But he had several 15 to 18 point games for Purdue, and I just I forget about him. I just can't imagine forgetting about Lance Jones. I really can't. So
I think the unfortunate answer is what happens in the NCAA tournament.
That's what I was going to say too.
And what does he do? Because yes, if we don't make at least the Elite Eight, then I think he gets swept right in with those other guys. And think about him and go, oh yeah, I mean, he might be a little bit more memorable, but he's not going to stand out a whole lot, unfortunately.
Interesting comment here. Being 6-man allows for someone who starts slow or gets into foul trouble often to see the flow and style of the game without risking a foul. Yeah, I agree with that. There are some guys, I'm a big NBA fan for anyone who doesn't know, but Malik Monk, for example, for the Kings, it's why isn't he starting? It's because he's so good coming off the bench. He'll come in off the bench and drop 30 points, and Gillis is a really good guy coming off the bench. But one thing, Russ, you were talking about this year versus last year, Painter's running plays for Gillis this season. He's running plays to get Gillis open threes. And I feel like that didn't happen a lot last season outside of that Penn State game, where now that's the norm when he comes in. So this, the adjustments and the change in the offense, we're running a lot more read and react, pick and roll than we've ever seen out of Matt Painter. I think there are a lot of changes, that he's made this season, and that for him to look at what we did last year and to make the improvements that we have made this season to have what is now the number one offense in the country, according to Ken Baum. I mean, it's hard to argue that.
Shout out PJ Thompson too.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
I mean, it's just
awesome.
Let's talk about that. It's not just the number one efficient offense, but the number one or always in the range of being the number one 3-point shooting team in the nation, as well as having the best big man in the nation by virtue of the National Player of the Year award. Has that ever been done before? That, I mean, I'm the history guy, I guess, so I need to look that up and maybe come back.
I feel like in the eras with Haas, that was what made Haas so dominant, is that we had such good shooters around.
Yeah, but number one in the country, because we had streaky shooters, right? Carson Edwards was streaky, very streaky, right?
Haas's senior year, Purdue was second in 3-point shooting his senior year. Yep, in the country. So we had Dakota Mathias at almost 47%, PJ Thompson at 44%, Carson Edwards at 41%. So that was when this is Carson's sophomore year when he was a lot more selective with the shot. Okay. Vince, who was at just under 40% at 39.8%. I'm sorry, Vincent, not Vince. And Ryan Klein at 39.6%. So that was what made that team really hard to guard. The team that we will never know what would have happened in the tournament due to a certain hook and hold. I digress. Yeah.
Was that the year that they won like 20 games in a row?
It was 17. Yeah, they lost to Tennessee and they lost to Western Kentucky in the early season tournament, and then won 17 straight, and then lost 3 in a row, and then won out after that. But yeah, close game to Texas Tech. I feel like that we had to start Jaquil Taylor, who, if you guys remember, hadn't played much that season. Did a really, really good job in that game, but and the Purdue engineering was trying to like create a device for Haas to wear on his elbow like overnight. It was pretty cool. But that was really sad because I felt like that team could have gone pretty far. But how many times in our lifetimes have we heard like, if there's ever a season, it's this season? I feel like we've said that like 5 times in my lifetime. So the fact that we keep getting there with Painter is just another testament to how good he is and what he's done for Purdue.
So let's start with postseason expectations for the Big Ten tournament. Like I know we touched on it earlier, but what do you think will happen this week? What do you want to see happen this week? Who worries you as far as a matchup for us, and maybe even outside of just a matchup for us? Who do you think, if you watch a lot of the Big Ten basketball, who do you think can make a run outside of Purdue in the Big Ten tournament?
Well, I mean, we talked about it as a group. I think the last team I'd want to see right now, our silent partner said this actually, that the last team we want to see would be Ohio State right now. Right. I kind of agree with that. They have all the momentum. Again, talking about guys having nothing to lose. Diebler has done a great job there. So Purdue plays the winner of Minnesota and Michigan State, and both of those teams scare me. I mean, both of those teams played Purdue close at home. Minnesota, they just hit a bunch of tough shots. Michigan State, hung in there against Purdue. But, I can see a loss to any team on this bracket. But when looking at matchups, when looking at matchups, I'm excited to see what is probably a Nebraska IU matchup. That'll be fun. But, in Purdue, if Purdue does beat Minnesota or Michigan State, the next game would be between the winner of likely Wisconsin and Northwestern, which also terrifies me. So all these teams on here are good, but I don't think it's crazy unrealistic looking at this to see a Purdue Illinois or Purdue Nebraska championship game.
I think a Purdue Northwestern Part 3 on a neutral court would be really fun to watch.
Yeah, I just wonder how can Northwestern just go off 3 times against Purdue? Because honestly, if there's one recipe, so to speak, to beat Purdue this season, it's just to go off. We've seen Northwestern did it, Nebraska did it. Ohio State was more just self-inflicted than anything else, but they also had a really good game.
Both games go to overtime this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
both Northwestern games. Yeah, so that'd be crazy. That'd be absolutely crazy.
Yeah,
I just don't know if they can go off. If Northwestern can go off.
If we crush them, that'd be great.
I don't actually have. So I did a little bracket prediction with JR with the Big Ten Huddle. If you want to go online, you can look up Big Ten Huddle on Twitter, and you can post your bracket in there. They got a little giveaway from home field on there, but I actually picked Wisconsin to beat Northwestern. So I think the problem for Northwestern is getting to a matchup with Purdue. Northwestern has matched up well with Purdue, but they've got to get to that matchup before that could happen. And Ohio State, while they could worry us, they're in the bottom half of the bracket. So if we see them, it wouldn't be until the championship game, which means I would feel less nervous about that because we've then won 2 games. We've made it to that point and obviously shown some kind of rhythm. But I don't like the term terrifies because nobody terrifies me, but anybody could beat us for sure. It's a conference that's very deep.
I think you and I rest on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of how we feel, confidence about matchups and whatnot. I'm always I predict a 3-point win. You're I'm going to win by 20. But one thing I forgot about Northwestern, Ty Berry's injury is tough. That's tough. I think they're 2 for they've won 2 out of 4. So they've won 2, lost 2 without him, which is really unfortunate. So.
I mean,
good
but
timing.
honestly, if we're talking about, if we go back to our conversation earlier, if the Big Ten tournament doesn't really matter, to us, then I don't feel like it matters who we play. Because if we lose early, then we go home, we get rest, and we're ready for the NCAA tournament. But if we win out, everybody's going to be excited about that as well. But it's honestly there's no right way for this tournament to unfold, this conference tournament, because if we lose in the first round, everyone's going to panic and go and tuck their tail between their legs and say, oh my gosh, here comes the tournament, here it comes, we're going to doom and gloom. If we win the tournament but we don't win every game by 25 points, then it's going to be, Purdue's faltering, they're not where they're where they should be. So, it's a lose-lose, honestly. I think everybody's just going to be nervous and sick to their stomachs when tournament time comes around anyway.
Yeah.
It's got a comment here from Sonny, having Indiana as a sleeper pick. They have been on a low-key roll too, on the court at least, and not so much off. I agree. They have been on a bit of a roll. They're on a little bit of a winning streak right now. They seem to have figured out some things offensively. They're hitting some outside shots. Didn't they lose 2 games this season against Penn State? Assuming Penn State beats Michigan. I know they lost at home to Penn State. So getting past that game is going to be a hurdle. I mean, Nebraska, they can just drop 90. That's going to be a tough one as well. But yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, I could see Indiana winning just looking at the bracket. So they would play the winner of Penn State and Michigan. And then they would go on to play Nebraska if they won that game, and then the winner of Ohio State, Iowa, Illinois. So yeah,
you're correct. They lost to Penn State twice, and they actually only beat Michigan by 3 points. Now it was at Michigan, but just a 3-point win for Indiana there.
Yeah, so it's like the saying goes: it's not who you play, it's when you play them. But Indiana has seemed to kind of figure some things out offensively. So yeah. Any I can really see any of the top 10 seeds getting to the championship game.
Yeah, ironically, I would say dark horse, but it's not really a dark horse because they're the 3 seed. But I actually have Nebraska getting to the championship game against us. I think that Nebraska-Indiana game, if that's the game that happens, would be really exciting. And I like Tominaga. Like I'm a big fan of his. He's somebody that if I had to pick somebody besides Lance Jones or somebody that's not at Purdue that has more fun playing college basketball than anybody else, it's Tominaga. Like Tominaga is just a likable dude. Like I don't know how you can. You have guys like Edey that you just hate him because he's dominant, or you have guys like Davison, you hate him where he's kind of dirty or kind of scrappy. Tominaga, you can't be mad at him. Like he's just such a fun dude to watch play basketball, and I'm excited.
He plays
to see
with
him.
the confidence and swagger that Steph Curry plays with. It's crazy.
Yes
Absolutely
and no.
crazy.
Like he's not like because he doesn't have like a nasty or mean streak. Like Steph Curry can get, he especially lately you've seen him throwing the mouth guard and kind of nuts. But I think Tominaga is going to be fun to watch in the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament. Like I'm definitely going to be pulling for them in the NCAA tournament. I'm not a guy that pulls for all Big Ten team for the sake of pulling for the Big Ten, but Nebraska's a team I like.
Yeah, I could definitely see Nebraska going far. Comment here: game of the tournament is on Friday. If Ohio State can win against Iowa, and then on Friday against Illinois, Diebler is 7-1. I think the Buckeyes are in. Yeah, I mean, Eric, I would love to get your opinion. How would you feel about him being your coach? Is that realistic, and is that something you would appreciate or embrace? I would love to know that. Again, I know I've said it before. I sat next to that guy on a plane this past summer. It's crazy.
I remember that you tweeted or you texted the group chat saying, I'm sitting next to this guy in all Ohio State gear. And then didn't you go on the website and you look through all the photos and you're like, oh, look at that.
No, he just had I'm a coach like appearance about him. He was like head to toe in Ohio State stuff and had an Ohio State backpack. And I'm like, this guy's either like a super fan or he's a coach. And so
easy because Dylan also has that appearance apparently because he's always getting reached out to on Twitter as like Coach Kuhn.
It's really weird. Like recruits like, hey, Coach, watch my film. I'm like, buddy, listen, you are barking up the wrong tree. And then some of them like, do you have any connections? I said, actually, probably negative connections to football. To hockey, maybe. But if you want to play hockey, maybe I can get you in. But highly doubt it. Also, I saw a dude when I was getting ready to go on a flight to Florida a few weeks ago. This dude and I both were wearing Purdue hoodies, and we made an eye contact. And we're like, hey, we're sitting with each other. And we did. Shout out to
got a comment here. Yes. Yeah, it seems like they want Diebler. He's winning the fan base over. Rumor is it's going to be May or him. Yeah, I'll be really curious to see where Dusty May ends up. Word on the street is he may end up in the town that I live in, coaching here. So
Louisville.
Yeah, he may end up in Louisville, but yeah, he's going to be probably the hottest coach in the coaching carousel for sure.
When Louisville hires the coach, do
Eric
they ask
is saying.
Speaking of coaches, did you guys hear about Mike Woodson's comment about how he's done what he's supposed to do at Indiana? Like his job's not going anywhere. He's done it. Like I just
keep going, Mike. You keep going, buddy.
But did you hear the seniors at senior day telling the fans to chill out on like their hate for him?
That's when you know
in their
things are
senior
going
night
well.
speeches.
That's when they know things are
like.
Going
I think it was
swimmingly.
Anthony Leal. It was like, hey, I'm coming back for my 5th season, but like honestly, you guys gotta chill. I think it's literally what he said.
I can agree. From the things they called me this morning on Twitter, I can fully agree on that statement. They gotta relax.
Man, just. Like they have high expectations due to their history, so we can't blame them for that. But.
Quite literally, Bobby Knight is not walking through that door anymore. He can't. He's not walking through that door.
Why? Because I will say, we got a dog.
Charlie, come here.
Got that dog in him.
Charlie got that dog in him.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that handsome young man.
Got the
last
collar
question.
on.
Last question I kind of want to ask you guys related to Purdue basketball is NCAA tournament related. I'm not going to get into expectations or matchups or anything like that, but it seems like we've pretty much locked up a number 1 seed. We've locked up that we're going to be playing the 1st and 2nd round in Indy. We're likely going to be in the Detroit regional. So that's kind of where we're looking at our first 4 games being, assuming we make it that far. But what do you guys think we have to do to lock up the number 1 overall seed? Do you think we even have a shot at it? Like, do you guys want that? Like, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that's going to help us lock it up is for one of the other number 1 seeds to have an early loss in their conference tournament. So like a UConn, a Houston, to have them. I don't even know who the other number 1 seed is right now. It's but to have them, one of them lose will probably help us and have a couple wins in this tournament as well. But I mean, yeah, it'd be great. So when you look at again, I live in Louisville. But when you look at when Louisville won a championship that was later vacated, they played in Indianapolis, they played in Lexington, Kentucky, and they played in Atlanta. So geographically, all the games were close, and they had a huge fan base. Hard to say if that helped, but it definitely didn't hurt. So to be in Detroit, to be in Indianapolis would be helpful. So yeah, but I'm glad you didn't get into the expectations, Russ.
I will say, if it is in the Midwest, there's a guy on Twitter, 3Twan Moore is his handle. He talked about, he's like, should I go to the games this year? Because these are like this is Purdue's like record for the last like 6 games that he's been to, and I think they're like 1-5. And he was at like the St. Peter's game. I think he was at FDU.
Oh no,
he was at like some other game that was really big. He was at the Virginia game, I think. So I was like, stay your ass home, man.
Yeah,
3Twan, if you're listening to this, stay your ass home.
We love you, we appreciate you, but stay home. Take one for the team. Stay home, please. Damon, you thought you were bad luck when you went to games. That guy takes the cake.
Yeah.
Damon thought that he was going to Didn't you go to the Minnesota game?
I did, and then we lost to Ohio State right after that, and I was like, see, guys, I've ruined it.
You wore that
Spoiled
it. You can't. I have a friend. So the only other guy in my hometown where I live, the only other Purdue fan, went to the Ohio State game, and he was about to be like, of course, I go to one game and they lose to Ohio State.
Right.
There's 2 Purdue fans in my hometown, me and that guy. Shout out to Jim.
Russ, what's your opinion? Do you want to play? Do you want the number 1 overall seed? And what has to happen for us to maintain that?
Well, of course I want the number 1 overall seed. Just for the sake of when they announce the bracket, that's the first team they're going to announce is who the number 1 overall seed is. And to see Purdue would be awesome for the program. It'd be awesome to see, and awesome to like kind of, at least for a few seconds, kind of ease our nerves a little bit because we get to celebrate being the number 1 overall seed. I think that if we win one game, like we just beat the winner of that Michigan State and Minnesota game, I think we've locked up the number 1 overall seed, regardless of what Houston and UConn have done. They have shown in the past that the tournament doesn't really matter. The Big Ten tournament or the conference tournaments don't really matter for seeding purposes. Mm-hmm. Like it's pretty much locked in because committee members have said in the past, like they can't go through, like like, and the reason I say we have to win that game too is because it's on Friday, right? So we'll play on Friday at noon, I believe, Eastern time. And so we win that game. The committee will start meeting before we play our second game in the conference tournament. So at that point, the committee can't go through every single scenario on, well, where's Houston at? Where's UConn at? What games they have left? They're not going to go into that. They're going to go, what's the resume to this point and who deserves the number one overall seed? And then they're going to decide on the teams that can actually steal bids or the teams that, are on the bubble. And is there a game that could sway you? They're not going to focus on that stuff. So I think if Purdue wins on Friday, we're automatically the number one overall seed, in my opinion, because the committee has shown that they don't. The AP poll is just a popularity contest that measures winning streaks and media bias. Like, and Ken Palm and Net don't decide who gets the number one overall seed. Like, they've already shown when they did the first release, Purdue was the number one overall seed. I don't think that's changed in the committee's mind, and I think the only thing they could change it is if we have almost a terrible showing. Like, I think, in my opinion, we could even lose Friday and still be the number one overall seed. But it would take something kind of pretty catastrophic, and then UConn and Houston to really impress for us to drop off the number one overall seed, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know, does the selection committee use net? I think that was the whole purpose of net, right? Was to help evaluate and rank teams. And I feel like the net's gotten quite a bit of scrutiny this season.
Well, I think that people forgot with the college football playoff this year, they forgot that committees are not perfect and that the committees are literally set up to decide whatever they want to decide. That there's enough different metrics and criteria that they have to consider that they can really base. What just happened?
You said Christ. So Bill and I both went like this.
I wasn't even looking at Damon, and I looked at poor both. I'm glad they pray before their decisions. Because
I mean, hey, some of the people in the committee probably think they are Christ. They think they are some kind of deity.
They're a bunch of old whites.
Yeah, but they've basically shown that there's enough criteria involved that they can use any means to justify who they put. Like, they could put Houston or UConn as number one overall seed and say, oh, it's because of this metric. And it'll say, yeah, they're the number one team according to that metric. But I think that for all intents and purposes, I think that Purdue is the number one overall seed as of now.
Got a comment here from the Ohio podcast. Says, rumor has it come next season, there's going to be a new college ranking system ran by podcasts, and it'll be the only one that matters. I've heard that rumor too, and I got to believe there's some merit behind that. So
you never know. You never know, boys. A little something big news coming down the pipeline is what I hear.
There you go.
But up to something. That's all I'm saying.
Is it as big as Russell Wilson to the Steelers? Right, Frank?
Oh, too soon. Too soon.
Way bigger than that.
Man, I just realized I can put a user in timeout from the comments. So
nice.
Just realized
y'all better watch yourselves.
So we're at an hour and 12 minutes. Dylan, do you want to go ahead and give a little wrap on the hockey season and kind of tell people how that went this last week?
I'll give you the beat, Dylan. Go ahead.
I'm too white for that. What are you talking?
He said rap, so I was just
but no, the boys didn't have a good as of a run in nationals as they wanted. But they finished it strong against was it Montana State?
Missouri
State. You got it wrong every single time.
State.
You said Montana State. You said like Mississippi State. You said like Michigan State.
Missouri.
Like,
just everybody. But they ended on a 4-0 win. So that's a good way to end it on a high note. I don't know, man. Those guys are great. Every single one of them. They work their asses off. Truly. I can't thank them enough for letting us work with them this season. We're going to be working on some other stuff next season. A lot of big things. I really want to do.
Rink.
Yeah, build the arena, Purdue, or add ice to something. Just do something. All right, give us a rink. What are we doing?
Don't put ice on the tennis court like they used to.
Like the good old outdoor. Why not play outdoor every game? Why not? But no, I hope we can help the hockey team build on what they've already built on, which is greatness. Well, like I said, when we first talked to them, those kids work their ass off. They drive an hour just to practice, let alone play their games. So the dedication is unbelievable. They deserve Purdue's support more than anything. Not only the university, but the fan base, alumni, everybody who loves the old gold and black. Please do what you can, help out even if you just follow them on social, even if you don't live nearby, give them a view, give them a like, whatever, man. Just these guys deserve it. They put in the work and they deserve some rewards. So yeah, they did finish the year on a strong note, but not how they wanted. But big things coming from us, and we're going to be working with them a lot more next season. I haven't gotten into much detail with them yet, but we're gonna do some cool stuff with them and a lot of collaborations next hockey season, and I am very, very stoked for it. So yeah, go ahead.
All right. Any final thoughts? Because every time I start signing off here, everyone's like, "Oh, wait, just do that."
I couldn't think of Lambert. Yeah, convert Lambert into a field house or into a hockey rink. Good Lord, it's already a field house. That's why I can't read. Jeez, end it. Gosh,
make him start playing hockey on ice. Make him start doing that.
Hey, here's a wild idea. You ever tried on ice before? Switch from the.
You asked for this, Damon. You asked for this.
Yeah. So what were you saying, Damon? Huh?
No, I was just saying. Anybody, any last comments, questions, concerns, thoughts?
Let's
put
convert Lambert into a field house on a T-shirt. No, I'm good. I shout out to all the IU fans in my mentions. They always find my tweets like a day after I tweet them, which is funny. But the news hits a little slower there in Bloomington, I reckon.
It's hard to get through, it's like North Korea, like you said. So it's gotta somebody's like going in there like to spread the truth out there.
they got what do they call that? I'm bad at words. Screw it. Anyway, they gotta sneak some stuff in. There it is.
All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it
up. Make fun of me and my words. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's like a weekend at Bernie's with these sunglasses on.
We'll go ahead and wrap it up here, guys. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. If you're still here, I'm not sure why, but appreciate you as always. From the Ohio podcast, say great show, boys. Call-in show Friday night. All right, guys. If you're listening to this and you don't have anything else to do, check out the Ohio podcast show Friday night. Call in, give them hell in a
What's
polite,
the number, Eric? We need
non-dickhead way.
Or be a dickhead, either way, really.
Or do that, I guess.
Enjoy it.
But I'm
a dickhead on that show all the time. I'm surprised their listeners haven't like boycotted getting me off that show. I'm on there way too often and not being an Ohio State guy.
Damon's about to boycott you.
I'm just gonna I'm just gonna shut the stream off. No, I don't even have that power. But
don't worry about it.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. As always, check out our sponsors, which are at the top of the screen here. If you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, wherever you're watching, Martin Vintage, College Basketball Analytics, and Cincy Blitz Boards. Use code BXP at checkout on Martin Vintage for 10% off. College Basketball Analytics, which power the big brain of Frank. In a lot of our discussions here, and then Cincy Blitz Boards is a great game for you guys to all play together. For you guys to all play together, have a good time. It's a good family game. It's a good game for a Friday night. But yeah, let's go win this Big Ten tournament and boil her up.